Ever notice how American finance YouTubers keep talking about the 4% safe withdrawal rate for retirement?
The 4% rule, the 4% rule.
But Indian finance YouTubers keep talking about SWP and FD interest.
Systematic withdrawal plan.
Systematic withdrawal plan.
So wait, are these the same thing? Hello fellow Arbab, it's time to boss your money. Here's the truth. Both strategies are actually very similar mechanically. But that small difference in approach makes a huge difference in the real world. Especially in taxes, inflation protection, and whether your money lasts 30 years or runs out in 15. I'm Kenneth and I've been in finance and auditing for almost 2 decades now. And today I'm breaking down why Americans use the 4% rule and why Indians use SWP or FDs, and most importantly, which strategy makes sense for us, NRIs in UAE. Because here's what nobody tells you. We are in this weird middle ground where we pay zero tax right now, but most of us are going back to India eventually. So stick around because I'll show you how to optimize your withdrawal strategy for both worlds and potentially save you tons in taxes, making your corpus last longer. Let's start with the American approach, the 4% safe withdrawal rate. Here's how it works. You built your retirement corpus, let's say $1 million. In your first year of retirement, you withdraw 4% of that, which is $40,000. Every year after that, you increase your withdrawal by the inflation rate. So year 2, your inflation was 3%, you withdraw $41,200. Year 3, maybe $42,400 and so on. The key part, you're selling units from your portfolio to fund these withdrawals. Stocks, bonds, ETFs, you're literally liquidating small portions of your investment each year. And according to the Trinity study, a famous research that analyzed historical market data, if you follow this 4% rule, you will have 95% chance your money will last 30 years or more, even if you retire right before a market crash. Now, why do Americans feel comfortable doing this? First, tax advantages. In the US, retirement accounts like 401k and IRAs give you massive tax breaks. With a 401k, you contribute pre-tax money, meaning you reduce your taxable income today, then it grows tax-free. When you withdraw after age 59 and a half, you pay income tax, but often at a lower rate because your retirement income is lower than your working income. Roth IRAs, even better. You pay tax upfront, but then all your growth and withdrawals after 59 and a half are completely tax-free. For example, if you earn $10,000 today, you put aside $500 in 401k. You only have to consider $9,500 as your taxable income. When you encash your 401k, you pay income tax on that. Now you still earn $10,000 today and contribute $500 to a Roth IRA. Your taxable income is the full $10,000, but your entire $500 invested in that account grows tax-free. Second, Social Security. Americans get Social Security, basically a government pension. The average payment right now is about $2,000 per month. That's $24,000 per year guaranteed for life, indexed to inflation. This acts as a safety net. Even if your portfolio underperforms, you've got Social Security covering your basic expenses. Third, lower inflation. US inflation historically averages around 2 to 3%. So that 4% withdrawal rule stays comfortably ahead of inflation. Your purchasing power stays relatively intact. So that's the American system. 4% withdrawals, tax optimized accounts, Social Security backup, low inflation. The math works and it's been working for decades. Now let's look at the Indian approach, which sounds similar but is fundamentally different. Indians typically use a combination of 3 things: FD interest, SWP from mutual funds, and maybe some rental income. FD first. You park a big chunk of your corpus in fixed deposits. Right now, senior citizens can get around 7% interest from banks like SBI or HDFC. So if you have 1 crore in FDs, you're getting 7 lakhs per year in interest. The key cultural point here, you never touch the principal. The 1 crore stays intact. Ideally, it even grows. You only live off of the interest. SWP next. SWP is Systematic Withdrawal Plan. This is where you set up your automatic monthly withdrawals from your mutual funds, ETFs, and so on. Let's say you want 50,000 rupees per month from your equity mutual fund. Every month, the fund house sells enough units to get you that 50,000 rupees. Now, to be clear, SWP absolutely involves selling units. It's not magic. The fund house is liquidating units every month to pay you. Just like the American 4% rule involves selling stocks. The difference is in the mechanics. It's the tax treatment and the psychology. So why do Indians prefer this approach? First, tax optimization. This is the big one. And this is where Indian tax law gets really interesting if you structure it right. Under the new regime, which is now the default, here's how it works. You can earn up to 12 lakh rupees per year and pay zero tax thanks to the rebate under Section 87A. That 12 lakh limit was just increased in 2025 budget. So if you're a retiree in India with no other income, you can structure your withdrawals like this. 8 to 9 lakhs from FD interest, 3 to 4 lakhs from equity SWP. Total income 12 lakhs per year, zero tax. Of course, this is just a simple example. You may need less than 12 lakhs per year. You may need way more than 12 lakhs per year. And withdrawing that 3 to 4 lakhs per year from an equity SWP may not be the most optimal way to do it. I like the 3 bucket strategy, which I'm working on to give you a video on that pretty soon. So subscribe if you'd like to see that. Now, why SWP specifically for equity? Because equity mutual funds held for more than 1 year qualify for long-term capital gains. And long-term capital gains on equity is taxed at just 12.5%, but only about 1.25 lakhs per year. So if you withdraw 3 lakhs via SWP, first 1.25 lakhs is tax-free and the remaining 1.75 lakhs is taxed at 12.5%, which means 21,875 rupees in tax. But if your total income is under 12 lakhs, the 87A rebate wipes out even this small tax. What about dividends? Dividends are not tax-free in India. They're taxed as regular income at your slab rate. So if you're already at 12 lakh rupees income, additional dividends get taxed at your income slab rate. Not ideal. That's why SWP is preferred over dividend income for tax efficiency. Second reason Indians prefer this is higher inflation. India's inflation historically ranges 6 to 7%. In recent months, it's been unusually low, but for retirement planning, you have to assume 6 to 7% over 30 plus years. If you use a 4% withdrawal rate in India with 7% inflation, you're basically counting on your corpus to return a minimum of 11% to be sustainable. FDs at 7% roughly match inflation. But do they? If you keep using the interest income, your income will always be the same, which means your income does not increase by 7% every year to save you from inflation. SWP from equity hopefully beats it with market growth. Combined, you're trying to at least maintain purchasing power. Third, no social security. India doesn't have a universal pension system like America's social security. If you worked in a private sector, you're on your own. Your corpus has to last forever and ideally grow because you might need to support your kids or aging parents. Americans have social security as a safety net. Indians have gold, but that's not exactly monthly income. So that's where the Indian approach, FD interest plus SWP, structured to optimize taxation, principal stays relatively intact, and you're trying to beat 6 to 7% inflation. So both strategies involve selling units or withdrawing money. What's the actual difference? 3 things: taxes, inflation, and safety nets. Americans optimize for US tax advantage accounts, 401k, Roth IRA, long-term capital gains. Indians optimize for the Indian tax laws, the 12 lakh tax-free income and the 12.5% long-term capital gain rate. Different tax codes, different optimal strategies. Second, inflation. US at 2 to 3%, India at 6 to 7%. This is why Indians lean more heavily on equity, higher returns, and are more conservative about withdrawal rates. Third, safety nets. US Social Security provides $24,000 per year, and India, there is no universal pension. Government employees do get pension, but they are still relatively small to sustain for the entire year. Let's say you need $40,000 per year to live. In the US, Social Security covers $24,000 of that. You only need to withdraw $16,000 from your portfolio. That's only 1.6% if you have $1 million saved. Very comfortable. In India, there's no Social Security. You need over 35 lakhs per year. If your corpus is 2 crores or $240,000, you're withdrawing 17.5% per year. That's not sustainable. You'll run out of money. This is why Indians lead a much larger corpus relative to their expenses and why they are so focused on keeping the principal intact. Of course, the person needing $40,000 in the US will need a lot less in India because cost of living is much lower. But assuming you need the exact same figure per year in India and in the US at any given point in time, then your corpus will have to be a lot higher in India. Alright, so where does that leave us as NRIs in the UAE? Here's our situation. While we are in the UAE, zero tax on capital gains, zero tax on dividends, zero tax on interest income. Now, this tax-free status only works if you maintain your NRI status and your investments are through NRE accounts. The moment you move back to India and become a resident, or your investment corpus is in a taxable account in India or anywhere else in the world, tax laws kick in on everything going forward. So we are in this beautiful tax-free window right now, but most of us are going back to India eventually. The additional complications are that first, inflation exposure. If your corpus is in US dollars and global markets, you're dealing with 2 to 3% US inflation. That's great. But if you're retiring in India, you're spending in rupees, which is 6 to 7% inflation. Suddenly that 4% withdrawal rate doesn't look so comfortable. Plus currency risk. If the dollar weakens against the rupee when you retire, your purchasing power drops even more. But in this scenario, if rupee keeps dropping, then that would put you in a great position. Second, no social security here either. Like India, UAE has no pension system. You get your end of service benefit, one lump sum when you leave, but that's it. No recurring income from the government. Your end of service benefit might be 50 lakhs, 1 crore, maybe more, maybe less, depending on your salary and years of service. That's a great boost to your corpus, but it's one time, not recurring income. Third, where are you actually retiring? This is the key question. If you're staying in UAE or moving to another low tax country, the 4% withdrawal makes sense. You're in a low inflation environment, no or low taxes on withdrawals, and you can be aggressive with your equity allocation. But if you're going back to India, which most of us are, you need to start thinking like an Indian retiree. That means structuring withdrawals in such a way so as to be tax efficient, using SWP for equity, having enough in FD or debt funds to provide stable income, and accounting for 7% inflation, not 3%. Here's what I suggest for NRIs planning to return to India. Phase 1 while in UAE. Maximize equity exposure. Take advantage of tax-free growth. Dollar cost average into global markets and some Indian exposure. Let compounding do its thing. Phase 2, 5 years before India return. Start shifting from equity to debt or balanced funds. Build up FD equivalent corpus. Repatriate some funds to India through NRE routes. Plan your asset allocation for tax efficiency. Phase 3, after India return. Figure out at that time what's the most tax efficient way to withdraw funds based on your retirement requirements. Tax laws will likely change between now and then, so stay updated and adjust your strategy accordingly. As NRIs, we need to be flexible. Build wealth in the tax-free UAE window. Then adapt your withdrawal strategy based on where you actually end up. Look, here's the reality. Both approaches are trying to solve the same problem. How do you make your money last your entire retirement, preferably while still growing, in a tax-efficient manner? The difference is the environment they are optimized for: tax laws, inflation rates, and security nets. As NRIs in the UAE, we get the best of both worlds right now. Tax-free growth, but that ends when we move back home. So build aggressively while you're here, take advantage of zero taxes, but plan your withdrawal strategy for whenever you're actually retiring. If that's India, think like an Indian retiree. If you're planning for another country, plan for what's best suitable in that country. The worst thing you can do is build your corpus with one strategy and then try to withdraw with a completely different tax regime without planning for it. That's how you end up paying for way more tax than necessary or running out of money too soon. If you haven't seen my previous video on the difference between corpus and net worth, what's that? Hit like if this cleared up the SWR versus SWP confusion. Subscribe for more real talk about NRI finances. Yalla Arbab, now go boss your money.